And just like that, it's Monday. Hi, everybody. I'm Russ Kane. This is The Daily Show, exclusive to Men's Radio Station. With you every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday, at the same time, 12 noon. God, I've just watched... I'm sorry, I've just got to say this. Just while I was waiting, I'm going to switch my phone off in case it rings. But I just watched... on Twitter, the statement from... I'm sorry, I can't get my head around it. I just watched on Twitter the statement from Holly Willoughby. Okay. And I retweeted saying, it's a bloke off the telly on a show that has around 700,000 viewers. That's it. It is not the declaration of the end of World War II. We are not all devastated, worried, concerned, and grieving. It's a bloke off the telly. That's it. Get a sense of freaking perspective, for God's sake. There's a wonderful comedian called Simon Evans, who I'm a huge fan of, have been for years, and he and I tweet very often to each other. And I just said, Simon, and he put sincerity, right? And I just wrote, Simon, are you okay? Are you coping? Thank God Holly was there to give us strength. What a load of absolute garbage. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him. You love him. He is the uncrowned king of comedy of New Malden, which frankly isn't saying much. Ladies and gentlemen, Neil Cheeky Boy Long.
It wasn't saying much last night. I tried out some new material.
What happened? Didn't go well?
No, not at all.
But you need
the learning curve.
I want to say something. Neil, I never make light of this. If you do stand-up comedy, I'm on the wrong side. I think I meant to be on this side. No, I'm on the right side. I can never remember. It's Ant and Dec. When you do comedy, you have no... I'll get through all your lovely comments in just a sec. But as Neil knows, and I've done it here in Los Angeles, there's no one else to blame. It's not like a play or a musical. You can't blame the director. You can't blame the writers. You can't blame the producer. You can't blame you can't blame anybody. If it goes wrong, there's only you. And you are walking the high wire, absolutely walking the high wire when you do that. So when Neil says he's tried out new stuff, it's damn brave. It really is brave because it can go.
It's a really friendly room, and it's a whole lot of comedy. Happily give him a shout out. In fact,
and just like that, it's gone. Right, let's go through some of the lovely comments. Neil seems to have frozen. What do we got here? Oh my God, you make it sound chilling. Well, it is. It's scary stuff. What do you think?
Am I back?
You're back now. Thank heavens, just in time for Liz Hall to say, "Hello, boys."
Hello, boys. I'm going
to put the comments up. You tell us what happened.
Because the thing is, though, if I didn't know what didn't work, I wouldn't know what did. So,
absolutely, you've got to experiment. You've got to experiment.
You've got to experiment, and the only place to do it, because I could sit with my friends all night, have a couple of beers, and think everything's funny. But does that translate to stage? Not always. Not always. But you have to know it. But it's a really good camaraderie, because a lot of the other comedians did really well, but they came off stage going, "Oh no, that wasn't that good," or "Well, that was informative," or "That was good feedback." I'm thinking, God, you did better than me. But hey, it's okay. No big deal.
Look at this. Hello, watching you from Lusaka in Zambia. Here, seeing an old school friend. What a marvel! I love it.
Hello, Lusaka in Zambia. Who are you? We want your name.
Hello, Lusaka. How are you? Let's go to northeastern United States with Asa Don Brown. He doesn't talk like that because he's
Asa Don Brown. I keep meaning to get in touch with you.
Please get in touch with him. He's a lovely man. And let's go from the northeastern United States to the south of Spain. Michael Verby. Julie Voice, formerly of Houston, Texas, now of Guildford. Cheap, isn't it? Happy Monday to all. I'm shortly after the physio. We wish you luck, Julie.
Well, good luck, Julie Voice.
Absolutely. And Barry J. Allen, who's been having a rotten time of it. Far too many people passing in his family. Hello, Barry. Send you our very, very best. What have you? Hello.
Crazy name, crazy gal.
Eve Phantom.
Hello, Eve.
Oh, and it's Mary Bird. Mary Bird is in Lusaka. Hey, Mary, how you doing there? So, why do you think? Here's the thing. I once had a conversation. I grew up with the Suchets, David Suchet, etc. And we grew up. My mum and dad were very, very friendly with his mum and dad. We go on holiday together, and all the rest of it. And I once had a conversation. I'd really like your view on this, Neil. People say, "Oh, the audience were in a bad mood. Oh, that was a bad audience." Many people have said that. And David Suchet, one of the greatest actors of our time, said, "Russ, what are the chances of 200, 500, 1,000 people all simultaneously being in a bad mood? You have to think it's not them. It's got to be you."
To be really honest, and you do need to be fairly grounded to do it, which I'm a little bit more grounded nowadays. Yeah. This is interesting. Graham Pack. I prefer going to the smaller comedy clubs to see the work in progress rather than their big shows in the arenas. You can get some absolute bargains for that.
It's fabulous. Because
another comedian chap that I know, a friend of mine called Math Brown, and he runs Outside the Box Comedy Club, which is in a kind of rock bar basement room in a pub in Kingston called the Fighting Cocks, and he knew all the people that were on Mock the Week, so he'd get all the names off Mock the Week there, and you'd see that for a $5. And guess who he had there once? Just guess.
Ricky Gervais.
No, before he died, if that's a clue.
Died on stage or died?
No, literally no longer with us, which was a tragedy.
Oh God.
Well-loved comedian.
Robin Williams.
Yes, Robin Williams.
Oh my God. That was
Robin Williams in the Fighting Cocks in Kingston. And he just went for beers with people afterwards and talked to them.
He was lovely, apparently.
Lovely man. But it's not, Russ is right. And my thoughts on this are, if you can take it, if your ego can take it, basically my material was shit. It wasn't any good, but I was trying stuff out, and you don't know unless you try it out. Yes, some of it's had laughs before with other audiences, a bit. Some of it could do with a lot of work. It might have potential, but as I presented it last night, it wasn't up to scratch. But you get the feedback, and then you can learn. Do you see what I mean? It's the feedback. Now I know what doesn't work. But what I have seen is two mistakes comedians can make. Either, number one, you've touched on it, blaming the audience. Oh, it's all their fault. Unless they're a bunch of drunken hoodlums.
If they're drunken idiots, you've got no hope.
They weren't.
Happened to me.
They weren't. It was a mixture of comedians, and there's a good camaraderie between us, and we all know what it's like to try new stuff. We've all had good gigs, and we've all had crap gigs, and we all get on well. There's a kind of a peership there, if you like. And they're great people. Guy called Mark Burrows, my God, he was good. Anyway, and the other thing is, one is audience blaming, and the other two is not trying anything different. I remember seeing this particular girl, first time round I did it, and she had the same 5 minutes that didn't work, and she kept on doing it over and over again in the hope that one day it would work, and it never did. It's like Einstein. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping to get a different result. And bless her heart. And bless her heart, with her sweet smile and her demure delivery, she didn't get a single laugh.
I tell you what I do. There's several things just to pick up on, and I think comedy is a huge part of mental health. So we're not just ripping on this. I really do. I think you have a laugh. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It really Neil would tell you whatever the hell it releases endorphins, or it just makes me laugh, which is great in a horrible world where things are taken way too bloody seriously. It's nonsense. I love the comment from Graham Pack. His wonder that Holly Willoughby wasn't wearing a black armband. That, oh God, it's just pants, isn't it?
Got something to share with you this morning.
I just want to go back to some of the things that you said.
Yeah, go on. Can you do that, and I'll find what I want to share.
Because Neil raised, as he always does, some really interesting points. Seeing a work in progress, as I've done. Ricky Gervais tried out his brand new. Now he's going to be playing, the Hollywood Bowl. He'll probably bring the show to the O2 Arena. And we went to see it in a very small venue. And he was trying the stuff out. And it's really interesting. And he's got notes, and he's not hiding it. And it was hilarious. It was great. And it was lovely. We also went to the Museum of Comedy, which is a wonderful little place in the city, here in London. And we went to see Ruby Wax, which we paid for. I'm sorry, it was diabolical. It was diabolical. She should have paid us. And I say this because to stand there with all your A4 and just read it and keep talking to the other people on stage, and it was like, come on, that's not fair. Don't charge us and do it. Don't charge us like it's a gig. I thought that was an absolute blooming liberty. That's just meal. Uh-oh, Liz has got a problem. Liz has got a problem. News coming in. Liz Saul, I've just been attacked by a pile of pizzas. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, Liz, did you top yourself?
Hey! Michael Verby in the south of Spain. On this note, I think the Mrs. Maisel is one of the best things I've ever seen, apparently based on Joan Rivers. Loved Joan Rivers.
Just to think about it, though, if you go and see a work in progress, and it's fair, like the first one you said, Ricky Gervais, you wouldn't judge the comedian for doing a work in progress. If anything, you'd be pleased with the fact that he's willing to try it out to get it right.
Absolutely.
If you think about it that way.
Now
Think about it this way. If going to get really deep here for a minute. If we are all works in progress, why are we so hard on ourselves? Surely you could be like a comedian and have a laugh.
The wrong fella. You're asking the wrong guy.
Have a laugh, enjoy the journey, and accept that you and everyone else are works in progress. If everyone took that attitude for the day, what would the world be like? Better, I would argue.
It would be way better. When I put together my stand-up show, one script for the UK, the Edinburgh Fringe, etc., one script for Los Angeles, because it's a very different sense of humour. You cannot just completely rewrite it. I road test it, and I'm very lucky that I've got some dear friends who, and this is the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I've ever done. It sounds ridiculous, but Neil will get it, and I hope you understand it, that I stand in like a kitchen or a living room and I do the set. It's 2 45-minute halves. I do the set, and they sit there stony-faced making notes, and you have to keep going. And although they're people, and it's really hard, it's so much easier to go out on stage and face an audience than be in someone's living room or kitchen. So Sam Kane and Linda Lusardi were brilliant. I went round to them, sat in their kitchen till gone midnight, and we went through every line, and they gave me feedback. It's up to you whether you take the advice or not. And then the wonderful Hilary O'Neill did it for me. Again, she came round with, Paul Adams, who's a brilliant comedian. And Hilary and Paul sat there with notebooks, giving me feedback and making suggestions. I can't tell you how grateful I was.
To do that. I mean, having a coach like that, and Linda Lusardi as well. Hello, sorry, couldn't resist that. But come on, she's lovely.
Do you know what? They're not only one of the most beautiful couples I know, because Sam Kane's stupidly handsome and Linda's gorgeous, and their kids are the spits of them. I mean, it's ridiculous. Their kids are just, oh dear, grandpa. Yeah, well, we had to go there, didn't we? I mean, my wife laughs every night when I get undressed for bed. Yeah, I know it's an old one. But if you look at mental health, and Neil's just said, why don't we extend what you do for comedy into real life? Think about this. Taking advice from other people, or listening, or having people, I think this is my point, having people you totally trust, who have no dog in the fight, if you like, have no axe to grind, and will say, Neil or Russ, I would do this if it were me, or I wouldn't do that, or to bounce your feelings off is a fantastic thing. It's very important. I guess that's what a therapist is. That's what a therapist, a counselor, a psychiatrist is someone who's listening, processing what you're saying, and giving some feedback. It's really just an allegory, isn't it, about comedy? That's what it is. This is what I think is going to work. And then you can take the advice or not.
And you can never tell. But don't blame the audience. Don't blame the audience.
Unless, as Neil has already touched on, they arrive and they're absolutely blind drunk. Now, when I did the Edinburgh Fringe a few years back, I think it was 3 years ago. Loved every second of it. But one day a hen party came in. My show was a 12 o'clock show. They were paralytically drunk. There was nothing I could do. I mean, they were just steaming drunk, a whole lot of them, loads and loads and loads of them. Nothing I could do. When I once played Jongleurs, the worst professional experience of my entire life, many years ago, 25, 30 years ago now, it was a Friday night. The audience were a baying pack of drunken dogs, and I died. It was horrible. It was 20, 30 years before I'd even go behind the mic again.
But even the most name comedians can still have a bad night.
Of course they can.
Of course they can. And any professional will tell you that. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know, Harry Hill. I'm sure he would be able to even Harry Hill, even Robin Williams probably didn't have great gigs all the time. Though we find that hard to believe. Which is the importance of the work in progress. Yeah. And any more that you wouldn't beat a comedian up for testing stuff and doing a work in progress. Why beat yourself up when you too, my friend, are a work in progress?
Because we do, and I wish we didn't, but I do it constantly. I'm very open.
I wonder if we could run an experiment.
Go ahead. Go, fella.
For a day, and we'll report back. I'm going to throw it out to everyone listening as well. Make all your self-talk positive.
Ooh, cracking idea, boy.
I'll give you an NLP technique for it. Okay, if you need a little tool,
go ahead.
And I will remember once I did a disco gig, and for some reason I just decided on that gig to talk to myself in a really positive voice, no matter what happened. So it wasn't conditional. It wasn't conditioned at a disco gig of me doing a good mix because I was a bit obsessed by that, or me looking good, or being Dave Hot Wheels or whatever. If it was good or bad, I went, well done. And I talked to myself in this really nice inner voice. And by the end of the gig, I felt absolutely euphoric, which proved that, it was my thoughts about it that were creating the experience, not the thing itself.
It was your thoughts about it.
And this is ancient knowledge. Yeah. It's not what happens, it's what we think about what happens that creates the thoughts and feelings of how we feel.
Wow. Michael McIntyre.
And if we can get that one down, then boom. I guess we'll be happier. Here's the how could anyone get hurt by that?
Because she's very tiny. She's only 2 feet tall. There's 6 of them. She's a tiny little.
Thank you. Yes, I'm live on air at the moment. Perhaps we can discuss shopping afterwards. Thank you.
Azadon Brown. I firmly believe.
Peas are off.
I firmly believe that a healthy approach to humor has many health benefits for you and your audience. Yes, absolutely.
Massively.
One day,
that's why
if we ever meet, he's just going to punch me straight in the face and say, I don't talk like that.
Laughter yoga. I think there's a scientific study saying a 2-minute belly laugh is better for you than a 20-minute walk or something like that.
Elizabeth just said this. She said, in India, we had a laughing meditation. Oh God, if I get the giggles, I'm dead. I'm finished for about 20 minutes. In India, we had a laughing meditation. A good belly laugh is so good for you. It is. I don't know what it does, but it is marvelous.
And this was in my this I did on Radio Jackie this morning. It was in my show prep, because we get show prep. I'm going to read the article to you. Silliness helps relieve stress. Taking time for a daily moment of daftness could boost your immunity and relieve stress. Here you are, Russ. 8 million Brits are suffering from anxiety, while the root of anxious thinking is spending time either ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. That's true. This is the basis of mindfulness. You're guilty about the past or anxious about the future. But in the present moment, no past or future. Therefore, you can't feel guilty or anxious by logic. Silliness falls under the umbrella of positive emotions, which are powerful for well-being at every age. explains psychologist Dr. Meg Arrell, author of Tiny Traumas. Maybe we can get her on the show.
Bizarrely, Meg Arrell, hang on, this is too freaky. She's my guest on my podcast this coming Friday.
Shut the front door.
She actually is. Dr. Meg Arrell is one of my guests.
Well,
and I think we're getting her on the show as well.
Can we get her for here, please? She continues, yes. Being silly anchors you in the moment and creates a space to simply be without worrying. Who is a master of this? Children are the masters of silliness, enjoying harmless play without feeling self-conscious. You know that religious thing, see through the eyes of a newborn? Yeah?
No,
I don't want to get into that, but the psychology of that's kind of correct. With an innocent perception. If you call it innocent perception and take the religion out of it, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? As adults,
I get that.
Yeah, as adults, it may feel as though we lose our silliness, but it's the stress of adult responsibility which knocks the desire to be silly out of us. So people don't get old because they stop playing. People stop playing. No, hang on a minute. People
I know what you mean. I am accused of being very silly often, and I do very silly
re-engaging with our childlike sense of silliness can be difficult because we're all busy adulting ourselves to death. But research shows finding small packets of emotional respite from stress can improve psychological resilience and physical well-being. Nearly done. Your particular type of silliness could be as simple as popping bubble wrap, watching a comedy, flicking paint messily at a page instead of being neat and tidy. It's one way of accessing joy. Not a substitute for medications or therapies, but an extra tool in your mental health toolbox. So it comes back to the challenge. It comes back to the challenge, which I'm going to put up a banner today. For 24 hours, can we make all our self-talk positive?
That would be like saying, hey, Russell, do you think you could win the Monaco Grand Prix driving for Ferrari if you just got straight in the car? That's how difficult it would be for me.
What must you believe for that to be real for you?
What? That I'm going to drive for Ferrari?
No, but you're using the metaphor. You're saying that's going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah.
But that has to be a belief system. So what must you believe to be true for that to be true?
I can't do it. I want to. I understand. You know, here's the paradox, is that I want to do it. I understand how correct you are, Neil. I know how self-destructive it is to be negative and beat yourself up. But hey, we are who we are. And we, as you always say, are works in progress. Although in my case, I think I better bloody hurry up, quite frankly. But it's difficult. It's very, very difficult when you've got that little voice.
And do you know why it's difficult?
Eating you up the whole time.
Because, like that article says, we've trained ourselves to be really good at doing the opposite.
Yes.
It's not that we're not good at doing that. It's just that we're really good at doing the other thing, because we're either doing one thing or the other.
Explain that.
You can't have it both ways. And if we can train ourselves to do the negative, surely we know about neuroplasticity. It's now not a secret. It's science.
No, that's
surely
true.
We can neuroplasticize, if I can coin a word ourselves, to do that.
There's an African theme running today.
Like a muscle, like you work a muscle. You try it for 5 minutes, go to the gym for 5 minutes, it's not going to work. But really keep it up for 24 hours and keep choosing it above all else. There's a brilliant teacher. I go to his calls online once a week, and sometimes I spew some of the stuff on here, sort of weave it into what I'm saying because it's so brilliant. Can I use a bad word?
Well, you've warned everybody, so block your ears if you're of a sensitive nature.
He calls it the fuck it happy game. No matter what, fuck it, I'm going to be happy. That happened, fuck it, I'm going to be happy. That happened, fuck it, I'm going to be happy. Fuck it, I'm going to be happy.
I had an interesting conversation. We're not on Deluxe Radio anymore. I just want to cover this off. It's just in case anyone's upset with Neil, don't. Because I'm the co-founder and he had permission. I'm sure Howard would probably say exactly the same thing. We're not on Deluxe Radio anymore. They've changed their schedule. And in the middle of a very heavy meeting, I was told that I once swore. I had no idea and I have no recollection. And the numbers plummeted. Well, so much for people on the south coast in Kent. Get a grip.
You were told that you swore?
I was told that I swore by the man who runs all of Deluxe, and he watched the numbers dip and they didn't recover for hours. I can't believe people are so. Are they really in 2023? Are we so sensitive? Really, it's a word. It's just a word. It's George
But then to
Carlin
people
said
like
it's
that,
just a word.
to people that would be offended by that, I say this: what are you more worried about? Everything being so sparkly and sanitized that it doesn't offend you, or that we're actually teaching something that could profoundly affect people's mental health
I never
and
pretend to
possibly
be a
change your
teacher.
life?
I never pretend to be a
What's
teacher.
more
We're
important
trying
to
to
you
help.
out of those two things? You know, this morality because someone says a bad word, or maybe just looking over that. I'm only swearing for context.
No. It's context. He wasn't using it as punctuation. It doesn't. But there's a time and a place for everything. I'm not offended by it. I do get offended because I think it's lazy when comedians, not well-known comedians, it has to be said, just stand there and they think, oh, they'll be edgy if they're effing and blinding and
no, that's not edgy.
This
That's
is
nerves.
laziness.
That's nerves.
Is it? No, but they think they're going to get the audience on side. Yeah, we'll get the audience. Michael McIntyre, when he started off, he swears a little bit. No, he didn't swear at all. It's not necessary. If it's a punctuation point, the way that Billy Connolly would use it,
Exactly.
it's different because that's the only word that would do would be that word to make the gag work.
And that's part of the art of it. But just using words like that, I remember a lot of female comedians in the first time round I did it,
boom,
and all they would do is get on stage and drop the C-bomb, and it wasn't
really,
funny.
Really.
I'm not saying that women aren't funny. I know some
No.
fantastic
He's not
female
saying that.
comedians,
Don't all gang up and
genius female comedians, but that's not the way to do it.
Yeah. Good afternoon, gents. I'm back in Old Blighty after 2 incredible weeks in Kenya. Is it Kenya? I'll call it Kenya now. On my 8th humanitarian trip. I'm feeling guilty, okay? Lots of work done, lots of happy children. So we've got Kenya and we've got Lusaka all in one show. Look at this one. This is from Graham Pack. I've never been a positive person. Yeah, well, that's why we relate, and probably stems from looking at the what if and worst case scenarios when dealing with property and corporate contracts. But I've never taken anything.
No, that's the thing.
Seriously.
My dad and I, and God rest his soul, he was a beautiful man, but we used to fall out all the time over this because he used to call me last minute .long. But he would take things to the other extreme. He was an engineer, and part of engineering was potential problem analysis. But the problem I felt was he would bring that to everything and look for the downside immediately, therefore blocking out all the upside. So I was too much this way, he was too much that way, and the middle ground of a bit of both of us would have been probably the sweet spot. But again, can we put that last comment back? I just want to comment on that comment.
Which one?
Where are you? There we go, Graham. But yes, looking at the what if and worst case scenarios. There's a wonderful lady. Her name is Mende Ordlin. Let me just put her name up. She's changed the spelling of it recently, just to confuse us.
Changed the spelling of her name.
Mende Ordlin. She's an American, and she is head of a church. It's the kind of church that even I would go to because it's all kind of new thought and psychology.
Is there catering?
And university rather than kind of religious. But she's written a book called the What If Up Club. And again, this is a choice to choose. There's the choice, choose to what if. So rather than what if worst case scenario, it's the other way around. It's what if, for example, the financial crash gave us a new opportunity to think of how we really want to spend our money? What if the pandemic gave us an opportunity to think about how we really want to treat the planet and each other? What if up rather than what if downing? It works.
Sounds a bit flaky to me.
Bit American?
Sounds for me, it's a bit too American.
I tell you what, I would have said the same, but I've watched interviews with her and she really walks her talk. She's incredibly authentic. She's a wonderful woman, I think.
This is interesting. Graham Pack makes a point, which I was going to make about 10 minutes ago. You should see Michael McIntyre in his work in progress shows. He's quite sweary in them, but not when he's doing the final shows in the arenas. Interestingly, I knew some people, they said, oh, we did a Michael McIntyre like focus group. I said, oh, well, were there hundreds of you? He said, no, there's like 10 of us. And he goes through everything. This is what a proper professional will do.
Mm.
And he'll go through everything, and he'll give you notepads, and you mark, and you're commenting, and he's asking for feedback, and he's seeing what works, and he's seeing it's not left to chance. It looks casual because that is the skill, that is the art form, to make it look casual. But the amount of work that he's put into it and the other greats who put into their work is huge. And I guess that's a metaphor for life, isn't it, really? Don't you think so? Leslie Ian Jones makes a good point. All the clever guys in suits with degrees out of every orifice never swear. They just screw everybody over. It takes 15 years to become an overnight success. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's going to get me onto another train of thought in a minute. All the clever guys in suits with degrees out of every orifice never swear. They just screw others over politely. Results are the same. For me, swearing is a weapon to be used at the right time. Yeah. It's just words. It's words, you know. No one's going to die from it. Unless it's fire, in which case you will die from it. But, you know, otherwise, it's just words. It's just words. Everything in life, I think this is one of the problems. And I'd love everybody's thoughts on this. Everything in life, if you want it to work out, takes effort. You got to pop the work in to get the results out. That's how it is. You know, it's just not going to plop on you. If you win,
although with a caveat, because burnout is very high, and I'm all for learning to work smart as opposed to hard, because if hard work were the key,
but you're still working. You're still doing
it's an element of work, and there's an element of action taking, of course. Yeah. You're not just sitting visualizing a Ferrari appearing in your drive and then poof, there it is. I don't mean that, but if you're just working nose to the grindstone, then everyone would be, then all the overworked people in the world who are burned out would be incredibly successful in every way, and they're not. So clearly there is more to the factor, and maybe we don't understand. Maybe we could break it down a bit.
Well, my point was going to be this. Anybody great, and they go, well, they're lucky. Yeah, but I'm not talking about the idiots. Well, this is my point. They've worked hard. They've worked at their craft, whether you're, doesn't matter, Formula One driver, whether you're a comedian, whether you're an actor, you've worked hard, right? But now society, especially through social media, and I've got to say, I'm sorry, and I've met him many, many times, and personally is a delightful man, nothing like the pantomime villain. Simon Cowell is to blame for this, with this culture of, I've got no talent, really. I've done no work, but I expect to be a multimillionaire within a month and be famous. Famous. I've got to be famous. What a load of nonsense. Who wants to be famous? This chasing of fame. I was watching the interview on Talk TV. I don't want to talk about them because I'm on Talk TV quite a bit myself. When Andre Walker had his contretemps with, I'm not even going to say his name because it annoys me, with the bloke who is a thug, really, in his pranks. I'm not saying about what he is in real life. I don't know. Don't care. But his pranks are deeply, deeply, deeply dangerously unpleasant. And it's like, oh, I'm famous. I'm famous. For what? For pretending to steal somebody's dog. That's funny. For pushing a person into the road. That's funny. To getting into the back of somebody's car and insisting it's an Uber and refusing to get out. That's funny. Or even better, invading someone's home.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Don't mention the name. I'm not giving them.
I can't remember his name.
I remember the bloke's name. I'm not giving them any oxygen of publicity. The point is this: for fame, that's what you do.
Yeah, I'm not being funny, but the Yorkshire Ripper's famous, and I wouldn't want to be him.
No, you would not want to be him. You wouldn't want to be him. You know, Fred or Rose West. It's you don't want to be this. It's this instant gratification without being willing to put the work and the effort into it. Elizabeth Green, humor definitely has an ability as acting as a self. Oh my God, you're absolutely right. And this is so true. Leslie says, the great Tommy Cooper act was chaotic. Everything was rehearsed. A most skilled magician in real life, like Les Dawson, was a fine pianist. Of course they were.
It takes more skill to learn how to do it wrong than do it right. I think of Tommy Cooper's brilliant magic tricks that went wrong, and they're hilarious. But that's a lot harder than to do it right.
Yeah, and also,
so
if you
are we gonna do this challenge? And can I give a little technique on how to do it?
You take it. Go on.
Matt?
Yeah, sure. Run with it.
Little bit of NLP. Russ, I can only apologise. Someone's walked in the room with an Arsenal.
I wonder who that someone might be. No idea. Pizza girl.
So,
Pizza girl.
We've all got that voice that talks to us like we're the scum of the earth. That little internal voice. You can call it the inner critic, the inner troll. Yeah. Never got anything good to say. It will always find the downside. Often hides behind a veneer of safety or what it's doing is good for you or that sort of thing. But generally, it's toxic. It doesn't think it is, but it is. So we all agree on that?
Let me ask you this. Does it? This gets so esoteric. Bear with. The inner critic, which beats the living hell out of you, and trust me, I'm relating to this. Does it think it's doing you a favor, or is it deliberately malicious?
Good question.
Or are we going round the bend thinking it's not actually just us?
Well, I'm going to put something on the screen which might semi-answer that.
Okay. Do you see what I'm asking?
And this is one of the tenets of NLP. Behind every behavior is a positive intention. So let's give it the benefit of the doubt, and let's look at it with love rather than hatred, because hating on hate will just make more hate. So it won't work. Okay. So for that reason alone, let's give it the benefit of the doubt, and let's treat it like a puppy. It's kind of cute, but you wouldn't let it wreck the house.
All right.
Yeah? It needs kind of cuddling and a bit of gentle training and a lot of love, but still, you're not going to let it wreck the house. Okay. So pick your favorite thought, which you use to beat yourself up with, and just notice where you sense it in your head. Is it the front, the back, the side? Where is it?
Front.
Okay, so
front
there.
And center. Front and center.
Is it going from outside in or inside out?
Ooh, crumbs. You're not going to watch me get very depressed as I think about it. I think it comes from, I don't know, it comes from both simultaneously. It comes from everywhere. I can't say that it's coming from, maybe from the outside or maybe from the back of my head. I can't answer. I don't know. I wish I did.
Okay, but have you ever thought about this? Have you ever broken down what they call in NLP, this is called submodalities. That's an NLP word. All right. Okay. It's the structure of what we do. The pictures, the thoughts, the words, the sounds that we create our experience with, generally based on past experience. Now, bear with me for a minute here. Okay. So if you were to change that voice to a voice you couldn't take seriously, like, I don't know, Boris Johnson or Donald Duck or Bill Clinton when he said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. If you change the note of the voice that you can't take it seriously, it loses its sting. Also, put it outside your head. Take it outside your head and move it way over there in the distance. Imagine it's just a tiny little troll now, jumping up and down, squeaking, nipping at your heels, but really not significant. You can swat it away like a fly. If you change the submodalities, if you change the voice, if you change the direction it's going in or out, try it. If it's going in, turn it outwards. Thank you, Kimmy. If it's going upwards, move it downwards. If it's got a dark color, make it bright. If it's near, move it far away. If it's got a picture, drain all the color out of it. Make it black and white. Make it translucent. You're changing the submodalities. You are literally changing the structure that you've built to make sense of the world you're experiencing. And it's not to blame you.
What
it's not
do
about
you
blame.
do?
It's not about blame. Far from it. NLP is not judgmental. It's about awareness of, yes, I'm doing this. And yes, I have the power to change it.
What do you do if it's someone you know that's important to you or was important to you, and it's them and their voice being, we're going to call it, Neil's words, the internal critic?
But it's still the same. It's still it's a memory of their voice, and it's us that's bringing that memory back.
Yeah, of course it is.
We're doing it.
Believe we're being haunted.
Okay,
but,
shall I give an extreme example? Do you want an extreme example of this?
All right, yeah, sure.
One of the creators, and trigger warning, okay, this is not pleasant. One of the creators of NLP, who I would call a bad boy genius, Richard Bandler, right? He used to run with the biker gangs, ponytail. It did all kinds of weird and wonderful things. Thank you. But he was also a genius. He was also a genius. Yeah, it's most people's mothers. That's a common one.
No, my mum was great.
Yeah. All right, Elizabeth. Then give her a Donald Duck voice and see if you can take it as seriously just for a moment. Anyway, Richard Bandler had a client come to see him who, trigger warning, had been gang raped, which is about the worst crime ever. Okay. But he got her over it within an hour because he's a genius. By helping us see that when she brought that traumatic memory back, it was her doing it. She took control. All the time she said it's because of what happened. She's giving the perpetrator of the crime, and I'm not saying it wasn't a terrible crime and he deserves the robust force of the law for it, but he empowered her to realize that she's bringing back the memories and she can change them rather than giving the control over to him. And if it can be done in a case as extreme as that,
can we unpack that a bit?
Yeah.
Because if we could understand that, which is about as extreme as you can get,
principle's the same.
So just
she was understandably.
She comes in. She's had I don't even want to repeat it. An absolutely horrific experience.
Traumatic experience. Yes.
Awful.
Not downplaying
Richard
that at all.
Bandler says, "What? What does he say to her?
Richard Bandler has a very robust way of writing, so I'm kind of quoting him here. Right. I wouldn't put it in quite these words, but he's very robust. He said, I pointed out to her, it wasn't the perpetrator doing it to her. She was doing it to herself by bringing back these constant memories. Change that mental process, and you change how she processes it and codes it, and it was done in an hour. And she walked out of the office a transformed person. Hard to believe.
I'm lost with the doing, because it was the gang. I'm trying to be...
Yes, they did it originally. Yes, when it was happening,
yes,
it was, of course, the gang are completely responsible. Yes, I'm not saying for 1 second they were. Yes. And if I were, you should take me off this radio station immediately. 100% responsible. No. But after that, it's her memories of it. So reliving it, it's a bit like post-traumatic stress, reliving it over and over and over again. When I did NLP with people, I used to say it was bad enough it happened once. Why keep torturing yourself with it again and again and again? There it is. Let's change that process, which you, with all the love in the world, are doing, bringing it back over and over and over and over again.
I mean,
and Bandler was so good at it.
This is the logic, and the stuff that I beat myself up, but trust me, is nothing like what happened to that poor woman. Of course not. However, I can't undo the past. The past is the past. Nothing I can do about it. No. I mean, this is where the dichotomy is. I can't undo the past. I'm intelligent enough, oddly enough, to appreciate I can't go back in time. There's nothing I can do about that. I can change the future. I can change the rest of my day. There's nothing I can do about the past at all.
Who said you had to change the past?
Well, I do. Because, no, if you beat yourself up about, let's generalize this, about decisions that you've made that have proved to be, frankly, disastrous.
Yeah. Will that help you make better decisions in the future?
Yes, that is true. It will help you to make, but it's a heavy price to pay.
No, this is interesting because you slightly misunderstood what I said there. I was saying, will it help you? No, it won't. You're saying, yes, it will help me. And that comes back to that cruel inner troll thinking it's, behind every behavior is a positive intention. There you go. You think by beating yourself up, or your troll does.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll put that one on in a minute. Behind every behavior is positive intention. So your positive intention is to stop that pain of the past. And the less enlightened part of you, us, thinks it can do it the old-fashioned way by constantly reminding, constantly chiding, constantly going on at you, constantly make you feel bad about yourself, but at least you'll be safe. Great logic, but it just doesn't freaking work.
No, it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work at all.
So that bodes the question, which is what Bandler asked when he it came from California. There was over 150 schools of psychology in California at that time. None were getting results. None. Zip. They were all arguing about who could get the worst results because nobody could do it. And there was catfighting between themselves. He comes along with this fresh approach of NLP and is doing things which really peed the psychiatrists off because he'd had no formal training. And he was doing things that they couldn't.
He had no training?
No. He just suddenly, he was a mathematician. So that provides the structure for it and the simile, the metaphor, if you like, for the brain being like a computer. And this is a really good one. If the computer we're on now, if it's had a virus, it's not going to work. So let's call our mental disorder a virus, if you like. Once the virus is removed, it doesn't matter if the computer's had it for 20 seconds or 20 years. Once it's gone, it's gone. So people can flail around for years, trying this, fighting that, doing this, doing that, vegan, I don't know, keto, whatever, but without getting to the root cause of it. But change the root cause, which is within us, friends. Change that, and it changes immediately. When you change what you look at changes.
Let's have a look at this. This is from Paul, who's going through some not great times at the moment, but he sent me personal messages, so I'm not going to discuss it. Now, everything Neil is saying makes total sense. Yep. We can't fix the past, so we shouldn't allow it to influence the future. Amen to that. P.S. Big thanks and love to a small group of friends who helped me get my head straight at the moment. And thanks to all on here for being a great sounding board and a wonderful, safe space. I will be okay.
And that is the other component to do this work. It's so valuable to have that safe space. I'm lucky enough to have that here with the close friends I've got around me, people like Liz and Mr. E, my producer, and my amazing daughter, and all that sort of thing. And that safe space, bringing up my therapist again, who I work with, Rosie Whetstone, always mention her on the show. When I was in a real mess, she's got this 3-pronged strategy. It's hold them, walk with them, release them. So when in a mess, you just need to be held. You know what I mean? Then walk with them. So you're teaching that person skills, but walking alongside them. And then when they can do it for themselves, you push them out the nest.
Yeah.
So they can fly.
I avoided, when we were setting this up, and I wanted to write the initial documentation about men's radio station, following on from women's radio station. It was this. I avoided the word safe space because I'm not bashing the Californians. I've had some wonderful, wonderful times in California. It's a fantastic place. I preferred non-judgmental space. And the reason I did that is because safe space can really be pushed to the boundaries, Whereas a non-judgmental space, it's you come on here, you say what's what, and no one's pointing, mass murder or something, or Pol Pot, we might be critical, but it's a non-judgmental space because we're all, as Neil has summed it up beautifully, we're all works in progress. All works in progress. That's what we are. Yeah. No one's perfect, and
the problem with doing work like this is we live in the culture of instant gratification. So expect it all to be solved within 2 seconds. Now, Landmark Forum is very, I've never been to one, Elizabeth, but Landmark is very in your face. They will literally force your hand. And my approach is a lot more gentle.
Like that sounds like Est. Where you have to sit
Landmark EST. Yeah, very, very, it's a bit old school in my opinion. Anyway, so if you have a bad thought, the inner troll, back to that, change its color, change its distance, make it translucent, anything to change the way it appears to you, change the sounds, change the direction it's going in and out of your head. Experiment with it. If putting it in makes it worse, put it out. If putting it out makes it better, put it out further. And they're called submodalities, and that's the structure of our experience, and we can learn to change them with a good practitioner of NLP. I helped Lizzie's mum give up chocolate once. I'm sure she won't mind me saying that. And we did submodality work, and she didn't eat chocolate since. NLP is powerful stuff.
How come?
Because the treatment worked.
What did you do?
I can't remember exactly what I did, but if you want to stop eating something, a really good way is to imagine it covered in vomit. That's a pretty good way.
Oh, God's sake. Oh
no, she didn't eat rabbit, and I told her it was a rabbit. But again, her submodality, her structure was delicious. I changed it to vile. And
I get that. Here's another little tip, by the way. If you think you're going to snack, and somebody wrote this on Randy Jackson used to be on America's was it America's Got Talent? Very famous music producer, but he also does a lot of health work. I've tried his stuff actually, and Randy Jackson wrote an email end of last week, and I didn't know this, and apparently a lot of people do, and I didn't. So I'm passing it on. You know, you've eaten, you think, oh, I fancy another little snack. Fatal. Go brush your teeth. Go and brush your teeth, because the toothpaste and everything, you won't be hungry. And the thought of then eating after you've brushed your teeth, that's it. I don't snack anymore.
You've said it.
What have I said?
Thought of. No, I didn't hide the chocolate bars, Robert. There was no need. I mean, you might be mocking me, and you probably are, but there was no need.
No, he's not mocking you. It's a gentle gag. He's not mocking you.
No, I know he's not, but I know he's not. But people go, "Oh yeah, you just hid the chocolate bars." No, I didn't. No, because you talk about this stuff, and people go, "Oh, it's just psychobabble. It's just rubbish." Okay, but judge by the results.
The cleaning the teeth thing is a really a good one, you know, because it kind of is a full stop. It's like, I've eaten now. Now I've brushed my teeth. The end.
Exactly.
The end. I'm not going to eat anymore.
And that's.
And I have to say that my intermittent fasting really does help. Gosh, really.
And
helps.
In NLP, what you've just described there, and there's millions of them, that's called a strategy. What you're talking about, that's a strategy.
It's what strategy? Explain that.
That's a strategy. Yeah. And I gave Liz's.
Oh, Liz is giving it back. Liz Saul's giving. You didn't live with my mum. So
because Janet, bless her, had a strategy for eating lots of chocolate, so we just changed the strategy. If you can have that one, you can have this one. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, she had a strategy for eating lots of chocolate.
Yes, you've got a strategy for beating yourself up. Everything we do has got a strategy.
Yes, I'd rather I ate chocolate, to be perfectly honest with you.
But strategies can be changed. That's why there's strategic planning. It's just like pre-paving your experience and planning what your experience is going to be, rather than being a default victim of it.
Okay,
it's about being at cause, not about being at effect. So just to finish this up, bad thoughts, fade them, hide them, change the direction of them, change the voice, and then find a really good thought. And like you would treat a child. If there was a little child, we would hopefully treat the child kindly. They attempt to do something. No, in fact, not even a little child. I teach DJing. My students, one's in their 20s, one is in their 30s, and they're both wonderful, and they're both doing really well. And when they do well, I congratulate them. And when they don't, I give them feedback, and I say, that didn't work. Let's try this, but always very kindly. And in that safe space, they're absolutely flying. So give yourself that safe space. Talk to yourself in that gentle voice. Hey, nice try. Pat on the back. Try again. And I tell you, I did it for one night at a disco gig, and I felt great afterwards. So I'm going to throw the question out, and I'm going to try it myself. Can 24 hours, can you make all your self-talk as positive as you can?
Well, I'll give it a go.
And if it gets difficult, play the F it happy game. F it. I'm going to be happy.
I'm going to be.
World's going to hell in a handcart. Fuck it. I'm going to be happy.
It kind of is. And it comes back to when I kicked off the show about Holly Willoughby sitting there, like it's the end of World War II, and she's telling you to be brave, or Ukraine stop being invaded. Jesus Christ. It is this concentration on utterly unimportant stuff. It's not important. Bloke off telly loses his job. It's not important.
But we've got to focus, and I speak for everyone here, we've got to focus on the person that means the most to us. And I don't mean this in a narcissistic way. That's us, because only we can do it for ourselves. It's not about being narcissistic, but someone else can't think in a happy inner voice for me any more than they can breathe for me.
No, they can't. They absolutely
only we
can't.
can do it for ourselves. And when you do that and make a practice of it and work that muscle and test that muscle, you will form a new baseline, and then you can form another new baseline. And that's the evolutionary journey.
Well, I guess you're the living proof of it, because you were I'm not going into details, but you've alluded to it very, very often, that you were in a very bad place.
Yeah, I'll be absolutely open
you
about
pulled
it.
yourself, and with professional help.
With professional help, with tools like this, and the safe space and the friendship, that trifecta, professional help, close friends, and some really good tools.
It's about changing our perceptions,
Yes,
says
excellent.
Don Brown, and worldview around the object or issue. Changing your perspective will provide you a new way of seeing your world and life. It is.
Let me give you an example that you'll relate to, Russ. You'll like this.
Okay.
Remember that old boss that we talk about? I won't mention him.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, him. So when we were getting a haranguing, either personally or in group, just imagine if he sounded like Donald Duck as he was doing.
It'd still be terrifying.
Really?
It'd still be scary as hell.
Then imagine he was 1 inch tall.
How do you do that?
By
Let me ask. I'm going to be all right. I'm trying not to get into the full details. Right. If this particular person had life and death over our careers, put it that way. That is true. Not life and death. That's ridiculous. He wasn't going to take you outside in the street and shoot you in the head. But he had life and death over your career and would fire you like that. But even if he was 1 inch tall, I'm being really silly, but I'm using your analogy. Even if he was 1 inch tall and spoke like Donald Duck, he'd still have the power over your career
to some
as
degree,
a tiny little person.
But has
you see what I'm saying?
Power? Well, he clearly hasn't got power over your career, because look at what the wonderful things you're doing nowadays.
No, we had no problems. I'll be absolutely honest. I was very, very lucky. But
yeah, so was I to a degree. But ultimately,
I was lucky because people say, you're lucky. No, I had a strategy. And my strategy was to make myself do my job to my absolute best ability every single day, every morning for 20 years. Never be slack, never take it for granted, and always give my best.
Good strategy.
But to not hang around the bloody office. Never be there. I would be there if I had to be there. Otherwise, you wouldn't find me. Just do my job. If you wanted to criticize that, that's a different matter. But, if someone is very difficult, I was going to say sociopath, but I was going to say sociopath or psychopath, but I'd just say difficult. And they could see you walking down. My point is this: if they saw you walking down the corridor and happened to be in a bad mood, they could take it out on you.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm never in the corridor, you can't take it out of me. You've got to go to the effort.
Good strategy. Good strategy.
That was my strategy. Don't be there. That's why I lasted 20 years.
The thing is, though, we're making a case here for empowering ourselves individually.
Oh, yes. Of course.
Bless you, Paul. And we send you very good wishes.
Yeah, we do. He's got a lot going on at the moment, has Paul. I'm not going to say what. What has he got? Thank God your pilot has me out to your work as you did for 20 years. Well, I had a string of pilots, and it was one of those. It really was my life in their hands. My life in their hands. I don't fly. I know nothing about aeroplanes. But there's another strategy. Put me on a roll. I was sitting in a light aircraft for 20 years. I did 1.5 million miles. I can't fly. I know nothing about planes. I know nothing about flying. I've no interest in it. It's a job, right? But I thought, if the pilot, God forbid, it was very, very rough, and my predecessor was not clean out because it was very turbulent and smacked his head against the window. If that happened to my pilot, or he had a stroke or, God forbid, a heart attack, if he knocked himself out in turbulence, I'm dead. I'm dead because he's unconscious. So I insisted they taught me how to land the plane. And I learnt how to land. I didn't want to fly. I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to go to France for lunch or any of that nonsense that they always spin you. I just thought, tell me how to get to the longest freaking runway in the world and land this thing and get out of it. I don't care if I smash the plane up as long as we get out in one piece. That's all I wanted to do.
Fair enough.
And I did that. And so I had the confidence that, God forbid, and I would be terrified, the pilot, something happened, I could at least get us down in one bit. Wouldn't be pretty, but at least I'd get us down as opposed to sitting there coming out of the sky like a brick. And I had to do that for my own sanity and my own peace of mind. So I suppose I'm just using that analogy for everything you've been saying in the show.
Exactly. You essentially put yourself at cause rather than at effect. The position of empowered person versus victim of circumstance. And that's our choice at every moment.
Let's just end we're running out of time right here. It's so lovely to talk about Mum, says Liz Saul. Janet, this week especially. Her spirit is always around. She's forever unconventional. She and Neil get along famously. But importantly, Mum being spiritual allowed Neil to explore that bit on her in a non-judgmental way. On Sunday, it's 3 years since her physical passing. It's still surreal. Love you, Mum. Well, it's my mum's birthday. Well, she would have been her birthday, obviously. Would have been her birthday tomorrow. So there we go. Beautiful way to end the show.
Sending you
Neil,
love, Liz.
Really interesting. There's so
Brilliant.
much to unpack there.
So the challenge is thrown down. And by the way, if you don't do it, not a reason to beat yourself up, but give it a go. Test that muscle. If you need a tool, use that. Mm-hmm. Okay?
We'll be back on Wednesday.
Don't expect that.
No.
Play with those and you will soon find a new... There you go.
They're fantastic. Until then, try and stay out of trouble.
Do our best.